Yes, we can hear you, Carlo.
Okay, and am I allowed to share my screen? Let me see. Okay, keynote. Do you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, you don't see it.
No, no.
Okay, let me try.
Oh, Carlo, I don't know if you are sharing like one window.
No, I'm sharing the screen, but let me do it again. Okay, sorry. Okay, let me zoom. Share screen. Desktop. Okay. Sorry. Let me do it again. Desktop. Okay. Opens security and privacy. Okay. Just 1 second. Do you know, it asks me, Chiara, maybe you can help me. On system preferences, how do I allow Zoom to share my screen?
Okay.
It says security and privacy, and that's what I'm doing. Ah, okay, screen recording. Okay. Maybe here. Oh, okay, sorry.
No, don't worry, Carlo.
Maybe screen recording. Yes, share screen. You know, when you change computer, which is what happened to me.
If you want, Carlo, we can also do that. You send me the slides and I can share from my PC if you prefer. Like, can you say when you have to go on?
Yes, but do you have Keynote?
No, but if you export in PDF?
I export in PDF, yes, but that takes, okay, I will do it, but, okay.
Because we don't see your screen, so I don't know how to guide you in the sharing.
I understand. Okay. Okay, I'm sending it to you.
Okay, through email?
Just 1 second. I have to create the email. Sent.
Okay, let me check. Did you send me my email, Carlo? Yes, okay.
Yes.
Now they arrived. Okay, let me download. Okay. And let me open here. Okay, one moment, that is loading. Okay. Now let's try to share. Wait a minute, huh?
Yep.
Because also my PC is sharing is really, really long. Okay, why does work? Wait, I'm closing the window that are taking me. Okay, let's see if now works. Okay. Amazing. Now, there. Okay. Okay, now you should see my screen.
Yes, I do.
Okay. It's clear? Do you need
Yes, we
video?
can see it. We
Yep.
can see it.
Oh, amazing.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, guys. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm very pleased to give this presentation to you today. And yes, my name is Carlo Ghezzi. I am an emeritus professor at Politecnico di Milano. As my host said in the introduction, I will talk today about this topic, which is digital humanism. As he said in the introduction, I'm now very much interested in the ethical implications of information technology. I have to say that, you know, I spent most of my life actually doing very technical work in software engineering for many, many years. And, you know, only recently I really, you know, opened my eyes to you know, what the technology that we are developing is doing, is affecting our lives and our society. And this is basically, you know, the general framework in which my activities are collocating these days. Can you move to the next slide, please? Okay, so basically the outline of the talk is what you see here. So why should we care first? And the reason why we should care about what I call digital humanism, and many people call digital humanism, is the fact that information technology has generated a real revolution in our lives. And what I want to discuss with you is how this digital revolution compares to other revolutions that occurred in the history of mankind. Even if you don't see it here, because, well, anyway, so what I want to say is that the digital revolution is actually something that is affecting us much more than the previous revolutions. And then the question that I want to discuss with you is, if this technology is affecting us in such a profound way, are we driving the evolution of technology, or are we driven? How much do we control? And this is, you know, where the need for digital humanism lies. And then, you know, after discussing this, what I want to discuss is what can we do? And in particular, how can technological developments be aligned with human and societal values and goals? And in particular, some reflection on how all this should change, in a sense, the way we do research and the way we do education. Okay, so that's basically the outline. If you have any question at any point, or you miss, some of the points that I make, or you want to make comments, please just raise your hand, and I'm sure that we can start a discussion. Next slide, please. So why should we care? Next slide. But first of all, as I said, I want to talk a little bit about the history of other revolutions, so that we can, put the digital revolution into a better perspective by comparison. So we do a little bit of history. Now, history, I think, is very important. Is very important because history is something that helps us understand where we are. So history is not just looking back at what happened before, but looking back to understand where we are. And in fact, like many Italians, I like to make citations from Latin. But it doesn't matter, whether this is Latin or not, but this is a very interesting statement that was made by a Latin, let's say, politician, philosopher in the first century before Christ. And he said that, history is the witness of time, is the light of truth, is the life of memory. And so it helps us understand where we are. Next slide. So I'm sorry you don't see here very much because of the animation that didn't come out well in my translation to PDF. Anyway, what I want to say here is that, the mother of all revolution was the scientific revolution. And the scientific revolution, is very well described by this author, Yuval Noah Harari, in this book, which is called Sapiens, which is a book that I recommend everybody to read because I think it's a very interesting and a very important book. And in this book, what Harari says is that, the scientific revolution, which is something that happened at the beginning of the 1600s, through the work of, people like Galileo, Descartes, Newton, which, gave the birth to science as we know these days. So the scientific revolution generated a progress in the history of humankind, which is much deeper than all the progress that happened before in the previous millennia of human life on Earth. So there has been a tremendous progress in the way people live due to the effect of the scientific revolution. So what Harari says is that, what happened in the past 500 years is a change in human life that is much more than all changes that occurred in the previous millennia, okay? And the reason is that, science has been able to shape progress. Next slide, please. And in particular, what science did is, is, first of all, a revolution in the way of thinking of humans. And why is that? Because, you know, before the scientific revolution, you know, by, as I said, by Galileo Galilei, Descartes, Newton, and these people, you know, what people used to call science before that was very much based on beliefs that had no justification, but were mostly deriving, you know, from religion, from superstition, or statements that had no trusted empirical support. So what these people did was, you know, to define the pillars of what we call today the scientific method. And the scientific method is basically based on two important principles. First of all, that we know what we do not know. So there is an admission of ignorance. So we know that we don't know certain things, and so we have to understand them. And we even accept that something that we thought we knew may be invalidated by further scientific research. And this is a process that is called falsification of the initial knowledge that we have. Okay, so we know that we don't know, and we do not just claim that this is something that exists because of some religion or some religious statements. And the second pillar is centrality of empirical observations and reliance on mathematics to formulate theories. So we formulate theories to explain phenomena, and then through empirical observations, we validate those statements. Okay, next slide. Now, the scientific revolution led, you know, as I said, the scientific revolution is mainly a revolution in the way of thinking, but it led to what is known as the Industrial Revolution. So especially the scientific revolution, so the knowledge that people gathered, especially in the area of mechanics, thermodynamics, led to inventions, innovations, which generated the Industrial Revolution. And the Industrial Revolution started, you know, in the mid-18th century, mainly in the UK. That was maybe the first real nation where all of that happened. And, you know, with the invention of what? Of the steam engine, for example, of machines. Okay, I will say more about this. So the invention of machines to do things. Okay, and through the Industrial Revolution, you know, there was a change in society, a very deep change. And as I want to discuss here is that, you know, profound changes in science and technology lead to profound changes in society. So in this case, you know, the world that existed before, which was mainly based on agriculture, on craftsmanship, on commerce, was revolutionized by the scientific revolution. And the new word generated by the Industrial Revolution, you know, is the new word of machines and factories, which generated new kinds of work, new ways of life. You know, people moved from the country to the cities where the factories were located to work in factories. And this generated, you know, huge societal changes. So society moved from a feudal society to a society based on bourgeoisie and proletariat. Of course, you know, you are from Mozambique and you are from Africa, and it also generated, you know, tremendous effects like, you know, colonialism, you know, which was generated by, as a consequence of the Industrial Revolution, because the countries tried to get materials which were found in other countries. So, and here we see a first example of a revolution which generated by science, which generated huge changes in society, generating lots of opportunities, of course, because, with machines, humans were relieved from, very heavy jobs, but also lots of threats for humankind. Lots of inequalities generated, lots of problems generated in society. Next slide, please. So the Industrial Revolution, just a few words more, was based on the use of materials, iron, steel, to build things, the use of energy and energy production, the invention of machines to produce goods. Initially, most of the machines actually were used in the textile industry in the UK, as I said before, sorry. And machines, of course, what machines do is that they increase productivity over humans, and they reduce physical labor. So it generated new jobs, new organizational work, urbanization, as I said before. It generated infrastructures. All good things, but also downside. It generated an abuse of natural resources, from which we still suffer today, and led to developments that at some point, turned to be against the natural environment. Today we have a problem, with carbon production due to machines that we still have, of course, today. And this is, one of the consequences of the industrial society. So there's, like in any change, there's pluses and minuses. There's positive and very negative effects. And of course, the negative effect on the environment is something very serious that we have to face these days. Next slide, please. So now let's look at the IT revolution, the digital revolution. Well, the digital revolution is much younger, of course. So the Industrial Revolution took let's say, more than 2 centuries, sorry, to become stable. The IT revolution started in the after World War II. And the IT revolution, the digital revolution, I think that really generated unprecedented changes affecting all, which is different, in some sense from the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution was not so deep in changes. I mean, it generated huge changes. But the digital revolution is even deeper. The digital revolution is changing the world in which we live, because the world has a continuous between the physical and the digital, and the boundary between the physical and the digital is somewhat disappearing. Especially in the future in which we are moving, we will live in a cyberspace, in a cyber-physical space, which is a continuous between physical and cyber. The notions of time, space, distance, are completely different in this new world. And basically what is happening is that inventing or designing technology becomes equivalent to inventing, designing society. So if I want to summarize, the difference between the digital and the industrial revolution, I would claim that this is in 3 dimensions. One is breadth, the second is depth, and the third is speed. What do I mean? So breadth means that there is no sector of today's life that is not affected by digital technology. That's a very strong claim, but I think it's right. There's no sector, in which IT technology hasn't penetrated. Depth means that the penetration is down to the essence of the phenomenon. It is changing humans. It is changing the way people think. It is changing the way people interact with each other, the way people make friends. And the third dimension is speed. By speed, I mean that changes occur so rapidly that we can hardly understand them. As I said, the Industrial Revolution took centuries to become real. The digital revolution is taking decades to becoming real, which means that it's very hard for humans to understand what's going on, to adapt to the changes that are implied by the digital revolution. Next, please. Now, here, and maybe here I try to speed up more. What I would like to do, what I want to do here is to say, so why is digital technology really changing us so much? What are the basic aspects, components of digital technology that are generating such a huge change? Okay. And here, what I want to say is that, well, first of all, there's 4 directions, basically. One is that we rely on digital machines. Okay. And with digital machines, it means that any kind of information can be represented in digital terms and manipulated through digital operations by our machines. So the machines that we build now are not, the steam engines of the industrial society. They're digital machines in which we basically introject a view of the world, and we can encode in binary form any kind of information, and we can process any kind of information. That's a huge power of digital machines. Okay. Second, networks of digital machines. So it's not only single machines, but these machines work in networks. And today we have a huge collection of machines all over the world, all connected through the internet. The third component is that these machines are not separated from the world, but these machines interact directly with humans and the physical world through sensors, through actuators, so they can operate. And the fourth, last but not least, and perhaps the most important, is the software. The software for those machines through which we can program whatever we want, and which gives agency to our machines. So our machines can produce things, can act, can do things in the real world, and we instruct them on what to do through software. And in the case of software, which is, as I said, you know, the real power that we have, software has been evolving tremendously, and the evolution has been software from automation to software for autonomy. So automation means that, you know, machines are instructed through software to do automatically certain things. Autonomy means that the software can decide autonomously and can change behavior autonomously. So the software is built in a way that it acts, it behaves in an autonomous way. And this is, of course, through the recent progress in AI. Let me just, you know, make a short side remark. You know, you remember that I said that one of the dimensions of you know, the digital technology is speed. Okay, well, in a case of AI, you know, 5 months ago, if you go back to 2022, basically we ignored that something like ChatGPT existed. Today, there's no newspaper.
Yeah. Estou preocupado com a fiche, porque...
Sorry? Okay, can I continue? Okay.
Yes, Carlo, please.
So what I'm saying is that today, you know, one of the let's say the hot topics that everywhere in the world people discuss is, what can ChatGPT do? What can this technology do? And we didn't know about this, you know, 5 months ago. Okay, this is changing our lives. Okay, and this is, you know, autonomy that we're talking about. Now, you know, I have a set of slides. I ask Chiara to go quickly through them. So the first one, yeah, digital machines, you know, it's basically, you know, the von Neumann architecture, but, you know, go to the next. Go to the next. I already mentioned that. Yes, but what I want to show here is that in 1945, end of the war, digital machines were these, okay? And they were based on technology which was vacuum tubes, as you can see on the right-hand side. So in this case, you know, this machine, which is the ENIAC, it, you know, was a machine that occupied, you know, 170 square meters and weighted 30 tons, okay? And the power of this machine is much less than what you have in your smartphone today. Next slide. You know, from there was a huge progress, very rapidly. It's so rapid that, you know, it has been encoded into the so-called Moore's law. The Moore's law says that the number of transistors in an integrated circuit doubles every 18 months. Okay, so every 18 months, you have more power on a single chip. And this has dominated the progress that we have seen today. If there was no such progress, if computers were of the size of ENIAC, we would not have had the digital revolution. The digital revolution occurred because these machines became smaller and smaller and more powerful. Go ahead, Chiara. Networks, you know, they didn't exist before 1969. 1969 is the first experiment connecting 4 computers. It was called ARPANET. Actually, I'm pretty old, and I was in the United States a few years, 5 years after that, okay? And I was at UCLA, where people were working still on ARPANET. I was at, University of California at Los Angeles. Now, in 1983, the Internet protocol was invented, 83. 12 years after that, 95, 16 million users were connected through the Internet. In June 2022, about the 70% of the world population was connected to the Internet. As you can see, this is a dramatic change, which happened in, less than 30 years. Next slide. GSM, was invented at the end of the 1990s. Wi-Fi released for consumer use at the end of the GSM at the beginning of the 1990s, Wi-Fi at the end of the 1990s. And through them, we could achieve mass access to Internet via phones, via smartphones. Next slide. So this is an idea, of why we're talking about a revolution. Because we have, this is the total population, about 7.9 billion people on Earth. 57 of them urbanized. Unique mobile phone users are 5 billion. Internet users are about 5 billion. Active media, social media users are, again, close to 5 billion. These are huge numbers. Next slide. Interaction with the physical world. We have been talking about, the Internet of Things, because, things in the world are directly connected and accessible worldwide via Internet. There's a forecast that in 2025, there will be 125 billion things connected to the Internet. On the average, each human on Earth will have 15 things connected. We are talking about wearable devices, devices that you wear, or you even have within your body, in your nerves. We are talking about brain-machine interfaces. So the connection of humans, their body signals, their electrical signals, they are potentially directly connected to the Internet. Next. And software is what makes it all possible. It really leads to the depth and breadth of the digital revolution. Depth, because you implementing software things that are really changing humans. Breadth, because you do it in every field. And to this area, AI is just bringing a dramatic paradigm change, which amplifies opportunities and threats. Next. So the question, as I said, is, can humans drive the process to ensure that the progress is for their good? Okay, that's what we want, right? So we want to live in a society where progress benefits us, not just a few. It benefits the many, not just the few, right? So digital humanism is exactly, a reflection on the role of humans in the digital world. Next, please. Just a bit of history again, and I'm sorry because, I believe that this reflects a real, Western view of society in some sense. So it would be interesting, to debate with other cultures and other areas of the world, on how all this can incorporate also other concepts. And I would be very happy to discuss it with you. But, if we go back to, at least in history in the Western society, humanism was born in the 15th and 16th century in Europe, with a rediscovery of antiquity in arts and philosophy, with rediscovery of the notion of knowledge and education, which goes back to the ancient Greeks, and basically aesthetics and ethics, which became more centered on humans instead of being based on the supernatural, on the divine. Society before that, in the Middle Ages, were very much dominated by religious thinking, okay? With humanism, people started thinking about, what is good and what is bad, what is beautiful and what is not, in terms of human concepts and not just supernatural concepts. And, the most famous, perhaps iconic representation of humanism is Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, which is this drawing that I show here, which basically identifies humans as, let's say, the notion of perfection in the world, the notion of harmony in the world, of proportion. Okay. Then we also talk about Enlightenment humanism, which was born actually in the 18th century, at the end of the 18th century, which became evident, and well known through the French Revolution. And the French Revolution, you remember they talk about liberté, égalité, fraternité, about freedom, equality among people, and brothership. So being nice to each other. So principles of human freedom and democracy were born at that time. So these are the basically, the principles of humanism that we find in history, which basically say that, all that matters is, what is good for the humans, for all humans, okay, not just for a few of them. Okay, next. And basically I got involved in this because I became part of this digital humanism movement, which started in Vienna in 2018, and which led to a number of things like, for example, a book, which, if you're interested in this, you can freely download from Springer, which is called Perspective of Digital Humanism, in which you can find a series of essays by people from different disciplines, from computer science, from sociology, from political sciences, from art, from, reflecting on, what it means, what digital humanism actually can mean. We did a summer school in 2022. There's a published roadmap. In any case, this is a web page through which you can access to a lot of information, including a series of lectures that are online. You can download the book. There's also actually a position statement on ChatGPT. which has been published recently in this website. Next, please. You can just, skip this. I was just, talking about, yeah. So what okay, so I see that there's, no, sorry. So what I want to discuss now is how does digital humanism relate to or affect software engineering, the way we teach software, the way we do research in software. Okay, next. Now, actually, I'd like to go back to an old contribution, a fundamental paper in computer science, in which there's, important concepts that relate to the notion of digital humanism. And this is a paper by Michael Jackson and Pamela Zaev in 1990 on ACM transactions on software engineering and methodology, which is a very nice paper, which gives the foundations of requirements engineering. Okay, and let me briefly say a few things that are presented in this paper. Well, we engineers, we programmers, software engineers, we build abstract machines in software, and we build this software to achieve certain real-world goals and satisfy certain requirements. Okay, so the reason why we build these machines is to achieve certain goals and satisfy certain requirements. Now, to satisfy those goals and requirements in the real world, we need to understand the domain, the environment in which the software that we build will be embedded. Okay? And in fact, this, you can see at the bottom of the slide, there is a kind of formula which I want to explain to you. M stands for the machine. In this case, it means the software, okay? So the software, together with E, the environment, the symbol next means entailment, which means that, if the machine behaves according to the specification that we provide for the software, and the environment behaves according to the assumptions that we made when we developed that machine, the machine and the environment together bring to satisfaction of the requirements. So we can only satisfy the requirements if we understand the environment in which the machine is embedded, because together the machine and the environment lead to satisfaction of the requirements. Okay, so I gave you a very intuitive idea of what they say. Okay, but this is, according to Jackson and Zaev, it is the responsibility of the software engineer to build machines which, in a given environment, lead to satisfaction of the requirements. And actually, you can even try to formalize the machine and the environment, and through logical reasoning, try to demonstrate that you can lead to satisfaction of the requirements. Okay, next one. Now, here, when we're talking about software, and in particular in our context, we are talking about what I call a socio-technical context. So we are talking about a context which is not just a physical world, but it's a world in which there's also humans. There are people. So when we build software, the environment in which the software is embedded is an environment in which we have humans and a physical environment. Okay? So goals and requirements need to express, in this case, human societal concerns and values. And the context, the environment, refers to humans and social properties assumptions. Okay? Now, my observation here is that although the software that we develop is a software that lives in a social environment, the responsibility of understanding the requirements and of implementing the software relies entirely on software engineers. So it's largely dominated by software engineers. And software engineers by themselves, because they are technical people, they mostly focus on functionalities, on technical goals like performance, portability, interoperability, and blah, blah, blah. But human-related and social-related goals and requirements are largely consciously, or perhaps even more said, unconsciously ignored. But the point is that decisions which engineers think that they are only technical, actually they are decisions which in most cases affect humans and society. And these are largely ignored. And as I say, by and large, these are unknown unknowns. What I mean by that is that engineers don't even know that they don't know the effect on humans and society. So they completely ignore that. I may be exaggerating a bit here, but I think that this really applies to what is the normal practice here. Next one. Now, the problem is, as I said, I already said it several times, the problem is that the software that we develop is a software that has huge effects on society. And, this has been well known since many, many years. Since the end of the 1900s, Lessig, Lawrence Lessig, is a professor of a constitutionalist. He's not a computer scientist, okay? So he's a professor in the Harvard Law School, okay? But he wrote a book which is called Code is Law. What he means by code is law is that code, software, embeds the rules according to which modern society behaves. So what it says, it determines how easy it is to protect privacy, software, how easy it is to censor speech. It determines whether access to information is general or whether information is zoned. It affects who sees what or what is monitored. So in a sense, the code regulates the space in which we live. And this is not just true today because of AI. It was even true before AI. Now, AI is adding complexity, adding problems to this very difficult situation. Next slide, please. What is the main problem of code? And what is the main problem of leaving all this regulatory information hidden in code? Well, the problem is that code is opaque. Very often, it is not easy to understand the rules of the world imposed by software by looking at software, reading software, understanding the intentions or the effects of the software by reading software is not easy. And this is even much more difficult in the case where software is made of components that are AI, and in particular, learned components that are learned automatically. You don't program those components, okay? But those components are the results of a machine learning algorithm. For example, they are an image classifier that is learned by data, okay? Those components even scale up the problem of opacity of, you know, what they do in general. Next slide. So what is the current situation, which is pretty sad? Well, the current situation, you know, I give you a number of facts here. What we are observing is privatization of research. So research is, you know, increasingly done by industry. Second, sorry, I missed. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, here we are. Is increasingly done by the big players. So, for example, today, you probably know that, you know, the most active research in the digital world are done by Google, they're done by Facebook, they're done by Microsoft, and there's less and less that is done through public research. And this is a problem, which is a problem because it goes together with the power of those platforms. So the power is restricted more and more into a few players who own platforms that we all use. So they do the research, they implement in their platforms, and we just use them. Okay, so that's a problem because, you know, we can hardly decide about the directions in which, you know, we want research to move. And then, you know, in what we observe, you know, there's an increasing evidence that we have problems. We have more and more software which violates privacy. There's more and more software that is hostile to humans or unkind to users. We have more and more software which is biased, which is unfair, which is discriminatory, which takes decisions discriminating people, and these are based on learned components. So, you know, what you know, can be done here is basically, and what has been done here is mostly ex post, as I say, risk mitigation. So, you know, once we have, you know, digital solutions, we try to verify them and validate and warn, you know, on whether there's behaviors that are undesirable. There's even, you know, political attempts to regulate, you know, for example, you know, I'm European, and I have to say that I'm very proud of what the European Union is doing in trying to regulate, you know, what these big platforms are doing to prevent misuses. Okay, but of course, these are only ex post, so they regulate after something has been implemented and it's out there. Then you try to, in some sense, you know, say what should not be done or what should be considered as illegal and so on. Okay, so the question is, can we do something better? So Why don't we start since the very beginning, trying to do research, public research in particular, and developments in a way that, instead of generating innovative software which has problems, we try to develop software which does not have problems. So some software that is compliant to the principles of digital humanism by design. And that would be, to me, a very important goal. Okay, move on, please. So can we build better systems for a better world? So can we build systems that are compliant with the principle of digital humanism? So these are, and I rapidly get to the end of my presentation. So next slide. So, when you talk about right and wrong, good and bad, what you do is that you enter a field which, is known by philosophers as ethics. So ethics is the discipline of philosophy which deals with, distinction between good and bad, right and wrong. So the question is, are the questions of right and, right or good, or wrong and bad asked when you develop software? Should they be asked? So are these discussed, when we educate people, when we specify requirements, when we validate alternative solutions, when we monitor an existing system, when we evolve a system? I don't think so. As I said, we normally talk about efficiency, about, consumption, energy consumption, maybe, about portability, about, all other technical questions, but not about, good and bad. What are the effects on people? Next slide. So anticipatory design means, that when you design a system, you also try to understand, as far as you can, of course, how can the system be used? How can the system be misused? What are the potential effects of certain technical decisions? Technical decisions may lead to different and very different effects in reality. Next one. So we should move towards what I call ethical software engineering. Next. Well, ethical issues are being faced by societies, by technical societies, like, for example, the ACM, the IEEE. They're coming out with so-called code of ethics, okay, or ethical considerations. For example, the IEEE has ethically aligned design for autonomous and intelligent software. These are very important documents, but what we should do is to really start practicing in the way we develop software and in the way we teach software those principles. Next one. So the goal is to make ethics actionable in the conception and construction of socio-technical systems. Now, the difficulty here is that distinction between what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong, is not obvious. Not only, the decisions are not binary. There is nothing that is, in practice, or very rarely, something that is completely right or completely wrong. So there's gray areas and there's mutual dependencies. So if you improve on one quality, you may go against another one. So what needs to be done is to bring ethical deliberations inside the development process. and make it explicit the type of decisions that you make. In the end, you have to decide, okay? But the point is that you want to decide once you have clearly analyzed, you know, the good and the bad, the right and the wrong, and you have a way to reason about them. Next slide. So, well, first of all, you know, I believe that in many cases, what we need is to bring competencies from other fields within the development groups of software that is developed, where in any situation in which the software that we develop has an impact on humans and society. So we need contributions from the humanities, from social political sciences, from law, from economics, depending on the type of systems. These people have to be brought into the process. They have to collaborate with the technical people, with the software people, in understanding, you know, what type of system we want to build. What are the pros and cons? And so there is a collective process which should lead to a conscious and explicit assumption of responsibilities when we design those systems. Next. There are some people who are working on this. They are trying, you know, to develop guidelines on how to do this. You know, for example, there are people in the University of Munich in Germany, at the Bavarian Research Institute for Digital Transformation, in which software engineers and philosophers are working together, and they are developing a guideline for an agile software development method which incorporates ethical deliberations. Other contributions are coming out of a research center in Ireland called LIRO, and where they have a research project, a research, let's say, focus on responsible software engineering. Next slide, please. And in education, how can we do this? You know, education, in some sense, it should be an easier situation. With education, we live in a protected environment. We have our students doing projects in a protected environment. It's not the real world, right? But why not engage students in computer science, in software engineering, to work with students in sociology or in social sciences or in human sciences, together in developing the requirements for new systems, you know, building multidisciplinary groups in which computer science students learn to speak and interact with people from other disciplines, and also those people, you know, in economics, in law, and so on, they learn to interact with people in information technology, which is very important. We need, you know, these people to understand more also about digital technologies. Next slide, please. Of course, there are challenges, but you know, I believe you can skip this. Next slide, please. So, in the end, you know, to do this, we need to be able to break disciplinary silos. We need to create, in the new generation, people who are more open-minded. They not only understand the technical field, but they understand also the implications of their decisions. They need to be able to talk to people from other disciplines. And the same is true, you know, for the other. Okay. So basically, that was the end. We have to break disciplinary silos if we want to build a new culture, which really helps us develop, what I call the digital humanism. So basically, that's the end of my presentation. I'd like to be able to discuss with you if you have questions. So please go ahead. I don't know if who's going to coordinate this.
Thank you, Carlo. It was amazing. Really, really interesting. I think for all of us.
Thank you.
Is
Thank you a
there
lot,
any-
Carlos, for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you. Do you have any, critical observations or anything you want to share? Or, you can also reach me, at any time by email but anyway, if there's questions, I'll be happy to discuss with you.
It's not a question. It's just basically to say that it was really wonderful to look back to the history of what really went through up to this time. I remember seeing a video of Elon Musk where he said that a couple of years ago, the life we live today was considered magical. So when you mention this scientific revolution, and you go on to the industrial revolution, and now this digital revolution, sometimes I think we seem to forget that it was really a huge work to get to where we are right now. Thanks.
Yes. And what I say, I think that what really is amazing in the speed at which all this is now happening. And as you can see, there's even people, who have been working on AI for many, many years, who are now saying, we cannot cope with the speed at which we are progressing.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Professor, it was an amazing speech. And the last thing you said is that why don't we use in education an approach where we can put our software students and the social science students to work in the same project? So my question is, how can we do that? Is there any experience you have from your university to approach this both different fields and make them work in the same project?
That's a very good question. Actually, I've been claiming that we should move in this direction more and more, but the academia seems to be very conservative. And if they don't do it, they're missing the train. So I'm afraid I do not have real experiences to which you can refer.
Okay.
I know that several people are thinking about it, but the point is that especially in information technology, very often students, they have to do intensive projects. Okay.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is that it requires an effort to contact people in other disciplines, because they also have a problem that their students should understand more about IT. So, this is a fantastic, chance for academia to do innovative education. And it should be done. But, if you can do it, I'll be happy to observe, your experience. And I'm claiming that we should do it more, but unfortunately, I don't have the data.
I find it challenging, and I think my other colleagues who are here can help me, and probably we can start a small project, at least when one social science faculty, and probably we'll let you know. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Seems that there's no other questions or observations. So if not, I
Yes.
thank you all for listening. Yes, there's someone.
No, just to say that I think there is no more questions.
Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for attending my lecture. If Chiara has anything to say at the very end, I leave the mic to Chiara.
No, thank you, Carlo, for coming, for sharing your seminar,
Okay.
everything. Thank you, guys, to everyone who attended.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you very much.